Hello guys, welcome back to Pause and welcome back to World Discovery. This is part 21 of our World Showcase Epcot inspired park here in Planet Coaster. So today we are heading back into Germany and doing a little bit more work on the pavilion. So if you go on to enjoy this video, please give us a like down below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all of the content. And if you fancy having a chat, head over to the Twitter and Discord server, and if you want to help us out, you can do that by going to the Patreon page. All the links are down below in the description. Pardon me. So let's get on with today's video. So what are we doing? So the first thing you can see here is going to end up being a beer stall. So quite an open little build, but this is going to sell beer and food and pretzels and all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, so that's what we're doing, having a little beer store. Now the idea for this is that it's going to look like a temporary structure that's been put up for this Oktoberfest, which is what we're celebrating in this area. However, this is going to be a year-round stand, and it's just going to have that feel of it being temporary, which you'll see in a little while when we put it in its actual location towards the end of this video, which is actually going to be over near the clock tower building. Just in front of that, actually, is where we put it. So that's what we get on with for the most of today's episode, is putting in this build, and then we also do a little bit of work around the queue line of the coaster, just to the side. Do a little bit of lighting around the coaster, and we also put in that water splash effect that we talked about in the last episode. And then towards the end of this video, we do name the ride as well. So you'll see it go through a few little name changes throughout the course of this time lapse. But I do settle on an idea that was actually left in the comments, so we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But first of all, let's talk about this little build here. So I'd want it to, how like I say, have that sort of temporary feel to it, which is why we've gone for the kind of canopy roof rather than it being an in-game roof, because they are quite big, and obviously I don't want it to have that permanent feel to it. So we've used a lot of wood and a lot of wooden and fabrics and things to give that very temporary setup impression, like you'd find at a festival or something like that, or like a German market around Christmas. That kind of idea. We put in a lot of barrels in this episode. You're going to see a hell of a lot of barrels as we sort of really hammer home this kind of beer vibe. One thing which we actually link the ride into that as well. A bit later on, as the plan that we've gone for, like originally I wanted to have the ride a kind of mine type situation where I know I spoke about it last time. I was maybe thinking tying in the Snow White story to it. I've changed my mind on that one, again taking some ideas from the comments. So instead what we've done is to tie it in with the whole beer festival thing. The ride station is now going to be a brewery. So it's going to be a place that makes and brews the beer. So that's the plan, that's the idea. And then the theme of the ride could be like a transportation system for the beer. I don't know, something like that. So you'll see, like when we start doing the ride theming, we do put in a lot of like little mine cars and things with barrels all over the place to give sort of the impression that this is how the beer is transported around. Linking in the barrels to this, as you can see, we've used those decorations on the front of this stand, which look quite nice, and then using a lot of the barrels at the back, and also out the front to use as table and chairs. I think they work quite well. Obviously in game that's not going to work, but I think from the looks of things it obviously gives that kind of impression that you'd be able to just stand there with your pint or your stein of beer. And have a little nice drink in the area. So we've gone for a few. Now here again, if I'm wrong with any of these words, I am so sorry. I was just glancing through Google Images and typing in a few bits and pieces from like beer festivals, Oktoberfest, that kind of stuff, and I found loads of little stands and signs and things with these three names on. Now obviously beer is beer. And the other two I assume translate into something to do with food and drink. So if I am completely wrong there, I am so sorry. Embarrassingly, I did actually study German at school for about 4 years, but I don't remember any of it. So I'm so sorry if I got any of this stuff wrong. Some bits in this episode I did Google Translate to make sure I'm getting it right when we're coming up for names for the coaster. You'll see for a while actually we do call it like Sleepy Mine Adventure or something, Sleepy Mine Train, something like that. I was trying to fit in that kind of vibe, but yeah, it doesn't work. So you've just seen the final placement of the stand just over near the clock tower. That is where it stays. I put a second one here as a sort of temporary measure, see if we maybe want to put more than one in the area. I do remove that actually soon because I don't think it needs to. In the space where we've actually just been building the stand, I think we'll put one restaurant in there, and I think that will be the only usable restaurant in this pavilion, in this area, the German area. And we're going to have to use the Professor Bratwurst stand, because why wouldn't we? We need to fit him in somewhere. He is the sponsor after all. So yeah, that's something we will do in the next one. We're going to start building that last building. This section here, like I said, is when I was Google translating all sorts of words and phrases and things. So you'll see it go through various different stuff. Like I said, a lot of this was generally things like mine, train, sleepy mine, or something like that. I can't even remember what I went with in the end. But yeah, we do change that at the end of this episode to what we are setting on, which I might as well announce now. So this coaster is going to be called Bier, which is basically beer train, the translation of. That was a suggestion by Yannick M. So thank you ever so much for that suggestion. And like I said, that one suggestion in the comments is what's influenced this entire storyline of this ride. So this is now a brewery, and the train is part of that process. So yeah, thank you ever so much for that. We still need a few name suggestions for the rest of the area, so if you want to get in your suggestions for the restaurants and the Bavarian band, then please do get them in. But yeah, we have gone for Bier as the name of this coaster, and we do change it soon. Yeah, I do change that for name at the front very soon. Then we start adding some more barrels around, just to really hammer home that theme. Originally, like I said, this was going to be a mine, so you might notice in a second that this sign that I put up here is mine related. I think I put mine office up there for a while, but obviously we changed that towards the end, and that becomes a brewery sign. So yeah, that's just talking through the process. Like I say, this was a case of 2 hours worth of build that I went back and forth on different ideas, and that's kind of my process really with it. I know a lot of people will have a clear sort of end goal in mind before they start building, but I don't work very well like that. I kind of just like to see what fits, have a look at the pieces, and then come up with a nice cohesive theme. Oh god, I'll get there in the end. So that's the general idea, and what we've done with this one. And like I say, taking in the comments, we've come up with this storyline, which I think's turned out quite well. So yeah, this bit, I'm sorry that it's kind of drawn out. I was just looking for random props. I thought, let's just go through everything and just see what we can use here. As like I say, at this point I was still thinking I wanted it to be like a mine office and like a coal mining type area. So I was trying to figure out anything that could fit, and there's not much really when you think about it. But I don't think that really fits the theme very well anyway, so I think the beer brewery to angle works a lot better. So yeah, this is the final location for the beer stand. Like I said, it is meant to look temporary, which is why it's kind of in front of the building. That is intentional, before you think it looks a bit messy. Like I said, this area's impression, we want it to look like a beer festival is going on all year round. So that's the idea. So that was a little bit of lighting. I don't do too much with lighting actually around here, with the ride anyway, because I don't think it needs it. So we put in subtle lights in the station, sort of orange glow kind of lights, and then in terms of the actual layout, I just use sunken floods to pinpoint some of the rocks and the mountain structure and the trees and things, just so the environment around you is lit as you go through the coaster. But I don't think it really needs much else. As we actually touched on last time, mentioned previously, it is a family ride that's not going to be a big draw, or at least I hope it won't be, in terms of the game. If this was a real park, it wouldn't. It'd probably get a little bit of a queue, just given its location, but it's not like an e-ticket attraction. It's not a major thrill ride, so it doesn't need to have the bells and whistles that go along with that. I mean, the only other thing we can compare this to is like, is it called Goofy's Barnstormer or something, I think, in Disney? That kind of ride. So that's what we've gone for. So I hope it turns out okay. Obviously, as we get around the park, we will probably put in a thrill. Well, we will put in a thrill coaster at some point. I will try and build one, but as previously mentioned, and as you can see from this one, I'm not amazing at doing coasters, but we'll give it a go. But that'll be something probably on the opposite side of the lake, maybe in one of the Asia parks or somewhere like that. We'll probably put it at Asia areas. Sorry, my words aren't coming out today. But yeah, we'll put in a thrill coaster at some point. And so here we're just starting work on the triggered effects for this corner. Very simple, just using those fountains at a slight angle, all spaced out at sort of 0.1 second a piece, and each of them will be triggered and last 1 second. So as the train comes round, it just creates a nice little simple waterfall effect, which, yeah, it turns out okay. It's what I wanted it to do. Like I say, it's just one of those little touches. It took 5 minutes to do, and I think it's nice to add those little bits in there just for just add a little bit of attention to detail. I'm not going to do another POV including that, because everything else with the ride is exactly the same. It is literally just adding on that one little section with the water. So this bit now, like I said, is where we turn this into our final theme. So the Bier Barn is the final name for this. I thought, do we have the Bier Barn? But no. So we keep it Bier Barn. So that's what we go with here. So we add a few more barrels. We rename that sign at the back to brewery, which is both the translations of. So if that isn't a word that is used in Germany, can someone let me know if there's a better word that we can use? I basically just did a straight translate from the English brewery into the German word for that. So if that's wrong, please let me know. I want to try and make this as not the word I'm looking for, as authentic. Yeah, I want to make it as authentic as possible. These little barrel cart festival things are perfect for this, because they've even got the flags on already. So yeah, a couple of them go around. I think I'll put one in the station as well. Yeah, they're perfect. They are. We might add a few more of them around this area. We could put just a little staff member next to them and a table with some like cups on, again to give the impression that it's just a smaller sales area selling pints of beer. I think that's something we'll probably do next time when we add the final area touches, which I think will be the next episode, if I'm being honest. I think there'll be, one more building, and then just the last touch up. So I think next episode, one after, so by maybe part 23, we'll be done with Germany, and then we can move on to the next country, which I still have absolutely no idea what we're going to do, as I never do with this build so far. It's going to be whatever I fancy on the day, whatever takes the fancy, and we'll go with that. But if you do have suggestions, let me know. We might do England, UK could make an appearance, as somebody in either the comments or on Discord a few times has mentioned doing a Big Ben in England. So yeah, that's something we'll probably do. That should be relatively easy, and that'll be the big focus, the big weenie of that area. So yeah, that's something we will do very, very soon. Anyway guys, that's about it for today's episode. So I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, don't forget to give us a like down below and subscribe to the channel. If you've got any questions, queries, comments or suggestions, drop those down below. Fancy a chat, head over to Twitter or Discord. And if you want to help us out by donating or pledging a monthly little fee, please head over to the Patreon page. The links are all down below in the description. But for now, guys, thank you ever so much. And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode, where we hopefully will put the finishing touches in Germany, as I've just mentioned, and we'll get this area pretty much done and looking amazing. So for now, thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.